The first gunshot rang through the valley like thunder, sending a flock of startled birds into the pale October sky. Hazel Matthews pressed her swollen belly and crouched lower behind the charred remains of what had once been her family's homestead. 3 days ago, she'd had a husband, a home, and hope for the future. Now, at 22 years old, she had nothing but the clothes on her back and a baby that could arrive any day. "Come on out, girl. We know you're still here." The voice belonged to Sela's Tanner, the man who'd led the raid that killed her husband. The same man who claimed her husband had stolen cattle, a lie meant to justify the attack on their small ranch. Hazel knew she couldn't stay hidden forever. The abandoned root cellar had kept her safe for 2 nights, but her water had run out and the pains had started coming faster now. God help her, she couldn't birth her baby here, alone and hunted. When the voices of the men finally faded with the setting sun, Hazel dragged herself from her hiding place. The autumn air bit through her thin dress as she stumbled toward the road. Sweetwater was 15 miles east, too far in her condition. The Callahan Ranch lay 5 miles north, her only hope. The first contraction hit her as she crested the hill overlooking Fox Creek. Hazel gasped, clutching at a pine tree for support. The pain receded, leaving her trembling and terrified. The baby was coming, ready or not. "Please," she whispered to the darkening sky. "Just let me reach help." She'd made it another mile when her legs gave out. Falling to her knees on the dusty trail, Hazel felt warm fluid running down her legs. Her time had run out. Alone in the gathering darkness, she began to weep. The sound of hoofbeats made her freeze. Friend or foe, she had no strength left to run. Hazel pressed herself against a boulder, praying for mercy or a quick death. "Who's there?" A man's voice, deep but not threatening, carried through the twilight. "Help," she managed to call, her voice barely above a whisper. The hoofbeats stopped, then quickened as the rider approached. Through tears, Hazel saw a tall figure dismount and hurry toward her. Not Tanner, not any of his men, this was someone else. "Madam, are you hurt?" The stranger knelt beside her, and in the fading light she could make out concerned blue eyes beneath the brim of a worn leather hat. "My baby," Hazel gasped as another contraction seized her. "Please." The man's eyes widened as he took in her condition. "Lord Almighty," he breathed. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "I'm Isaac Reed. My place is just over that ridge." "Can you hold on if I get you there?" Hazel nodded weakly, having no choice but to trust this stranger. With surprising gentleness, Isaac lifted her onto his horse, mounting behind her and supporting her weight against his chest. "Hang on, madam," he murmured, urging the horse forward. "You and your little one are going to be just fine." The ride was agony, each hoofbeat jarring Hazel's contracting body. Isaac spoke quietly the whole time, steadying her when she swayed, promising safety just ahead. His place turned out to be a modest cabin with a small barn beside it. Smoke curled from the chimney and lamplight glowed from the single window. As they approached, the door swung open, revealing an older woman with silver-streaked hair. "Isaac, what in heaven's name?" "Martha, this lady's having a baby, right now." The woman, Martha, didn't waste time with questions. "Bring her in. Quick now." Inside, the cabin was warm and smelled of herbs and wood smoke. Isaac carried Hazel to a bed in the corner while Martha bustled around, gathering supplies. "I'm his aunt," Martha explained, helping Hazel out of her mud-caked dress. "Been midwifing in these parts for 30 years. You're in good hands, child." Another contraction gripped Hazel, stronger than before. She cried out, clutching at the sheets. "Isaac, water and clean towels," Martha ordered. "Then make yourself scarce." The next hours passed in a blur of pain and pushing. Outside, Hazel could hear Isaac pacing the porch, his boots creating a steady rhythm against the wooden planks. Martha stayed by her side, coaching and encouraging through each contraction. As dawn broke over the hills, Hazel's daughter entered the world with a lusty cry that seemed impossibly loud for such a tiny being. Martha cleaned the infant while Hazel collapsed against the pillows, exhausted beyond measure. "A beautiful girl," Martha announced, placing the swaddled bundle in Hazel's arms. "Strong despite coming early." Hazel gazed down at her daughter's pink face, her heart swelling with love and grief. Thomas would never see his child. Their daughter would never know her father. "What will you name her?" Martha asked gently. Hope, Hazel whispered. Her name is Hope. Martha nodded approvingly. Rest now, you're safe here. Hazel closed her eyes, holding her daughter close. For the moment, they were alive and sheltered. Tomorrow would bring its own troubles. Isaac waited until Martha signaled that it was safe to enter. The sight that greeted him made him stop in his tracks. A young woman, exhausted but serene, cradling a newborn against her chest. Her long auburn hair spilled across the pillow, and though her face was pale with fatigue, she was strikingly beautiful. "Madam," he said softly, removing his hat. "How are you faring?" Hazel looked up, really seeing him clearly for the first time. He was younger than she'd first thought, perhaps 28 or 30, with sun-weathered skin and kind eyes. A cowboy from his worn clothes and the way he carried himself. "Better, thanks to you and your aunt," she replied. "I'm Hazel Matthews. Pleased to meet you properly, Mrs. Matthews, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Isaac approached carefully, as if afraid he might disturb the fragile peace of the moment. "And who's this little one?" "Hope," Hazel said, adjusting the blanket to reveal the baby's face. "My daughter." Isaac smiled softly. "She's mighty pretty." He hesitated, then asked the question that hung in the air. "And your husband, should we send word somewhere?" Hazel's throat tightened. "My husband is dead, killed 3 days ago when our homestead was burned." Isaac's expression darkened. "Tanner's gang." Hazel's eyes widened. "You know of them. Everyone within 50 miles knows Sela's Tanner," Isaac said grimly. "He's been pushing smaller ranchers out, claiming their land through false accusations or outright violence." He paused, studying her face. "Your homestead was west of Fox Creek." Hazel nodded. "Thomas and I had just finished building it last spring. We were going to—" Her voice broke, and she couldn't continue. Isaac's jaw tightened with anger, but when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "You and your daughter can stay here as long as you need. You're safe." "I can't impose, it's no imposition," Martha interjected, returning with a cup of herbal tea. "This house has been too quiet since my brother passed. Besides, Isaac could use the company. He spends too much time with that ornery stallion of his." A faint smile touched Isaac's lips. "Aunt Martha thinks I need civilizing." "You do," his aunt retorted, but there was fondness in her voice. To Hazel she added, "Drink this. It'll help with the milk and the healing." As Hazel sipped the bitter tea, she felt the weight of the past days pressing down. "They'll be looking for me," she said quietly. "I was the only witness to what they did." Isaac and Martha exchanged a look. "Let them look," Isaac said firmly. "This is Reed land, has been for 15 years, and I don't take kindly to trespassers." That night, after Martha had gone to bed and Hope was sleeping peacefully in a makeshift cradle, Hazel sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Isaac joined her, offering a cup of coffee. "Thank you," she said, accepting it gratefully. "For everything." Isaac settled into the chair opposite her. "No need for thanks, anyone would have done the same." "No," Hazel said softly. "Not anyone." They sat in companionable silence for a while, the crackling fire and the baby's soft breathing the only sounds. "Do you have family elsewhere?" Isaac finally asked. "Someone who could take you in?" Hazel shook her head. "My parents died of fever 3 years ago. Thomas was all I had left." She looked down at her hands. "We came west to start fresh. He had such dreams for our little ranch." Isaac's expression softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry, Hazel." It was the first time he'd used her given name, and something about the way he said it made her look up. In his eyes, she saw not pity but understanding, the kind that comes from having known loss yourself. "What about you?" she asked. "Have you always lived here?" Isaac leaned back in his chair. "No, I came from Tennessee after the war, fought for the Union, came home to find not much left to come home to." He glanced around the cabin. "My uncle left me this place when he passed. It's not much, but it's mine, free and clear." "It's a fine home," Hazel said sincerely. Isaac's mouth quirked in a half-smile. "It's enough for me and the horses. I break and train them for the army and for ranchers who need good stock." He paused. "It's quiet work, gives a man time to think." "Sometimes thinking is the hardest part," Hazel murmured. "That it is," Isaac agreed softly. In the cradle, Hope stirred and began to fuss. Hazel moved to rise, but Isaac was already on his feet. "May I?" he asked, surprising her. At her nod, he carefully lifted the swaddled infant, his large hands impossibly gentle. "There now, little lady," he murmured, cradling hope against his chest. What's all this fuss about? To Hazel's amazement, her daughter quieted, staring up at Isaac with unfocused eyes. You have a way with her, Hazel observed. Isaac smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his weathered face. My sister had 4 little ones. I helped where I could. His expression clouded slightly. She's in Oregon now, haven't seen her in years. He handed hope back to Hazel, their fingers brushing in the exchange. A strange warmth fluttered in Hazel's chest, catching her off guard. She looked away quickly, focusing on her daughter. You should rest, Isaac said, moving toward the door. I'll be in the barn if you need anything. You're not staying in the house. Gave up my bed for you and the little one. The hayloft's comfortable enough. He settled his hat on his head. Sleep well, Hazel. After he left, Hazel fed Hope and settled her back in the cradle. As she lay down, she realized she hadn't felt afraid since Isaac had found her on the trail. It was a strange feeling after days of terror, this sense of security in a stranger's home. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. But inside, the fire crackled warmly, and for the first time since Thomas died, Hazel fell into a dreamless sleep. Dawn broke clear and cold the next morning. Hazel woke to find Martha already up, cooking breakfast while Hope slept peacefully. How do you feel, child? The older woman asked. Sore, but better, Hazel admitted, carefully sitting up. I should help with breakfast. Martha waved her off. You stay put. Your job now is healing and caring for that baby. She placed a cup of tea beside the bed. Isaac's been up since before sunrise, tending the horses. Hazel sipped the tea, gazing out the window at the frost-covered landscape. In the daylight, she could see that the Reed place was modest but well-tended, a small cabin, a sturdy barn, and a corral where several horses grazed. Beyond that, rolling hills stretched toward distant mountains. It's beautiful here, she said. Martha smiled. It is that. My brother claimed this land when it was nothing but wilderness. Isaac's added his own touches since taking over. She glanced at Hazel. He works hard, my nephew. Too hard sometimes. Before Hazel could respond, the door opened and Isaac entered, bringing with him the scent of cold air and horses. He removed his hat, nodding to the women. Morning, he said. How are our guests today? Doing well, Martha answered. Come eat while it's hot. Isaac washed at the basin, then joined them, sitting at the small table. Hazel noticed his knuckles were scraped raw. You're hurt, she said. He flexed his hand dismissively. Just breaking a new colt. He had opinions about the process. Martha set a plate of eggs and biscuits before him. That black devil will be the death of you, Isaac read. He's coming along, Isaac insisted. Just needs time and patience. Hazel managed to get out of bed, moving slowly to join them at the table. Isaac immediately stood, pulling out a chair for her. You shouldn't be up, he protested. I'm stronger than I look, Hazel replied, easing herself down. And I've imposed enough without being waited on. Isaac studied her for a moment, then nodded respectfully. As you wish, but there's no hurry for you to be up and about. They ate in comfortable silence until Hope's cry interrupted the meal. Hazel started to rise, but Martha was quicker. Let me, the older woman said, scooping up the infant with practiced ease. I've missed having a baby to fuss over. As Martha tended to Hope, Isaac cleared his throat. I was thinking, he began, that I should ride into town today. Marshal Hollister should know about what happened at your place. Hazel tensed. Will that help? Thomas always said the law out here is complicated. Hollister's a good man, Isaac assured her. And it needs to be recorded what Tanner did. Otherwise, he'll just claim your land without consequence. The thought of Tanner taking her and Thomas's dream made Hazel's stomach churn. You're right, she conceded, but be careful. Tanner has men everywhere. Isaac's expression hardened. I can handle myself. He stood, reaching for his hat. I'll be back before sundown. Aunt Martha will take care of you. After he left, Hazel helped Martha with household chores, moving slowly but determined to be useful. By midday, however, her strength was failing, and Martha insisted she rest. You've pushed yourself too hard, the older woman scolded gently. Your body needs time. Reluctantly, Hazel returned to bed, cradling Hope against her chest. As her daughter nursed, Hazel found herself studying the cabin more closely. Despite its simplicity, there were touches that spoke of care: hand-carved furniture, shelves of books, a colorful quilt on the bed. Did you make this? Hazel asked when Martha brought her lunch, fingering the quilt's intricate pattern. I did. A wedding gift for Isaac, though he's never found use for the wedding part. Martha sat on the edge of the bed. He was engaged once, years ago. A girl from back east who couldn't abide frontier life left him after 6 months. Hazel frowned. That must have been hard for him. He doesn't speak of it, Martha said. But yes, I think it cut him deep. She smoothed a wrinkle from the quilt. Isaac feels things strongly, though he keeps it hidden. It's the quiet ones you have to watch. Hazel thought about the gentle way Isaac had held hope, the careful respect in his eyes when he looked at her. Yes, she could see depths in him, currents running beneath the still surface. The afternoon passed slowly. Hazel dozed while Martha worked around the cabin, humming softly. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the promise of rain. It was nearly dusk when they heard hoofbeats approaching. Martha peered out the window, then relaxed. It's Isaac. But when he entered, Hazel immediately sensed something was wrong. His face was grim, his shoulders tense. What happened? She asked. Isaac removed his hat, running a hand through his hair. Tanner's been to town, spreading his version of events, claims Thomas was rustling cattle and attacked his men when confronted. Hazel gasped. That's a lie. Thomas never stole anything in his life, I know, Isaac said quietly. And Marshal Hollister knows Tanner's character, but without witnesses. He hesitated. Without witnesses, it's my word against his, Hazel finished bitterly. And I'm just a woman. Isaac's jaw tightened. Hollister's coming out tomorrow to take your statement officially, but there's more. He glanced at Martha, then back to Hazel. Tanner's filed a claim on your land, says Thomas owed him money. Hazel felt as if she'd been struck. No, that can't be legal. It's not, Isaac assured her, but Tanner has Judge Wilson in his pocket. Unless we can prove otherwise, the claim might stand. The injustice of it burned in Hazel's throat. Everything she and Thomas had worked for, stolen by the same man who'd murdered her husband. What can I do? She asked, her voice small. Isaac and Martha exchanged a look. For now, you stay here and recover, Isaac said firmly. Focus on your daughter, let me handle Tanner. How? Hazel demanded. You can't fight all of them. I don't intend to fight, Isaac replied. Not with guns anyway. He sat down, leaning forward intently. Tanner's been doing this for years, pushing out smaller ranchers, forging documents, bribing officials. Someone needs to stand against him. And that someone is you, Hazel asked, half admiring, half afraid. Isaac's eyes met her steadily. For now, yes, you and Hope need protection. And I aim to provide it. Something in his voice, the quiet certainty, the unwavering resolve calmed Hazel's fears. She hardly knew this man, yet she trusted him in a way she couldn't explain. Thank you, she said simply. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Hazel lay awake, listening to the rain against the roof. Hope slept beside her, tiny hands curled into fists. Everything Hazel had planned for her daughter's future had vanished in flames. Now they were adrift, dependent on the kindness of strangers. No, she corrected herself, not strangers anymore. In just 2 days, Isaac and Martha had become more than that. They were her lifeline in a storm that had nearly drowned her. Outside, she heard the barn door open and close. A moment later, Isaac's tall figure passed by the window, heading toward the corral despite the rain. Curious, Hazel wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and moved to the window. In the dim light from the barn lantern, she could see Isaac standing in the center of the corral, speaking quietly to a large black horse that circled him nervously. The animal snorted and tossed its head, but Isaac remained still, his posture relaxed, one hand extended. For several minutes, this strange dance continued, the horse circling, Isaac waiting. Then, gradually, the horse slowed, its ears flicking forward with interest. Step by cautious step, it approached until its muzzle touched Isaac's outstretched hand. Hazel watched, transfixed, as Isaac stroked the horse's neck, still talking in that low, steady voice that carried across the silence. There was something mesmerizing about the scene, the patience it revealed, the gentle strength. When Isaac finally led the horse back to the barn, Hazel returned to bed, but the image stayed with her. A man who could tame wild things with patience rather than force was a rare thing in this harsh land. Marshal Hollister arrived the next morning, a weathered man with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense manner. He spoke with Hazel privately, taking careful notes as she recounted the attack on her homestead and Thomas's murder. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Matthews," he said when she'd finished. "Tanner's been a thorn in my side for years, but he's careful about leaving evidence." "So you believe me?" Hazel asked. Hollister nodded. "I do, but believing and proving are different matters." He closed his notebook. "I'll file your statement, but I can't promise it'll be enough to bring charges against Tanner." "What about our land?" Hazel pressed. "Isaac says Tanner's filed a claim." "He has," Hollister confirmed grimly. "Claims your husband borrowed money using the property as collateral. Without your husband's testimony or documentation proving otherwise, it'll be difficult to contest." Hazel's heart sank. "So he gets away with murder and theft." "Not if I can help it," Hollister said, surprising her with his vehemence. "I've been building a case against Tanner for years." "Your testimony adds to it." He stood to leave. "Stay here with Reed. It's the safest place for you and your child right now." After the marshal departed, Hazel sat on the porch, cradling hope and fighting back tears of frustration. Isaac found her there, sitting quietly beside her. "Hollister's a good lawman," he offered. "If anyone can bring Tanner to justice, it's him." "Justice won't bring back Thomas," Hazel said softly, "or our home." Isaac was silent for a moment. "No," he finally agreed. "It won't, but it might give you and Hope a chance at a new start." Hazel looked down at her daughter's sleeping face. "I don't even know where to begin. I have nothing, no money, no family, no place to go." "You have us," Isaac said simply. "For as long as you need." Hazel turned to him, searching his face. "Why are you doing this?" "Taking in strangers, risking Tanner's wrath." Isaac looked out across his modest property, his expression thoughtful. "When I came west, I was lost. The war had taken something from me I couldn't name. My uncle took me in, gave me purpose again." His eyes met hers. "Sometimes a person needs shelter to find their strength again." The sincerity in his voice touched something in Hazel. "You're a good man, Isaac Reed." A faint smile crossed his face. "I try to be." He stood, offering his hand to help her up. "Come on. Aunt Martha's made apple pie, and she gets cross when we let it get cold." Days stretched into weeks as October gave way to November. Hope thrived, growing stronger each day. Hazel's body healed, and gradually she took on more responsibilities around the cabin, despite Martha's protests. "You're not a servant," the older woman insisted when she found Hazel mending Isaac's shirts. "I'm earning my keep," Hazel replied firmly. "You and Isaac have done enough without waiting on me." Martha sighed but relented. "Well, if you're determined to work, I could use help with the preserves. Winter's coming, and the cellar's not half stocked." Together, they settled into a routine cooking, cleaning, caring for Hope. Isaac spent his days training horses and tending to the small herd of cattle that provided the ranch's modest income. In the evenings, they gathered around the table, sharing stories and finding unexpected moments of laughter. Hazel discovered that Isaac was well-read, with a particular fondness for Shakespeare and history. Often, after Hope was asleep, he would read aloud while Hazel and Martha worked on sewing or mending. "You have a gift for bringing words to life," Hazel commented one evening after he'd finished a particularly moving passage from The Tempest. Isaac looked embarrassed but pleased. "My mother was a schoolteacher. She believed education was as essential as breathing." "A wise woman," Hazel said. "Thomas and I wanted that for our child, a life of the mind as well as the land." Isaac's expression softened. "You'll give that to Hope, I have no doubt." As November deepened, so did the connection between them. Hazel found herself watching for Isaac's return each evening, looking forward to their conversations by the fire. She noticed the gentle way he always asked about her day, how he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts. For his part, Isaac began finding reasons to be near the cabin during the day, bringing in extra firewood, fixing a loose shutter, checking if Martha needed supplies from town. Each time, his eyes sought out Hazel, lighting up when he found her. Martha observed this growing attachment with knowing eyes but said nothing, simply ensuring that the two had time alone when possible. One crisp afternoon, Isaac found Hazel hanging laundry, her cheeks pink from the cold. "You shouldn't be out here," he chided gently. "The wind's picking up." "Fresh air does me good," Hazel replied, reaching for another of Hope's tiny gowns. Isaac moved to help, his height making the clothesline easily accessible. They worked in companionable silence until the basket was empty. "How's that black stallion coming along?" Hazel asked as they gathered the empty basket. Isaac smiled. "Midnight, he's learning, still has his stubborn moments, but we're finding our way to understanding each other." "I saw you with him that night," Hazel admitted. "In the rain, the way you waited for him to come to you." Isaac looked surprised. "You were watching," Hazel nodded. "It was beautiful, your patience." A flush that had nothing to do with the cold spread across Isaac's face. "It's the only way with horses and people too, I reckon. Force just breeds resistance." "Thomas believed that," Hazel said softly. "He never raised his voice, never used spurs or a harsh bit." "He sounds like a good man," Isaac said, his voice sincere. He was. Hazel felt the familiar pang of grief, but it was gentler now, softened by time and the comfort of sharing memories. They walked back to the cabin together, close but not touching. At the door, Isaac hesitated. "Hazel," he began, then paused as if gathering courage. "Would you and Hope like to ride out with me tomorrow? There's a place I'd like to show you not far from here." Hazel felt a flutter of anticipation. "I'd like that very much." The next day dawned clear and cold. Isaac had rigged a small sleigh behind his gentlest mare, creating a cozy nest of blankets where Hazel could sit with Hope. Martha packed them a lunch and waved them off with a knowing smile. "Don't hurry back," she called. "I've got plenty to keep me busy." Isaac guided the horse along a trail that wound through stands of pine and across open meadows frosted with the season's first snow. Hazel breathed deeply, enjoying the crisp air and the sense of freedom after weeks confined to the cabin. "It's beautiful out here," she said, watching a hawk circle overhead. Isaac nodded. "This time of year has its own kind of beauty, stark but honest." They traveled for nearly an hour before Isaac reined in the horse at the edge of a small valley. A clear stream cut through the center, its banks lined with cottonwoods and willows. "This is it," Isaac said, helping Hazel down from the sleigh. "My favorite spot on the whole property." They walked to a sun-warmed boulder beside the stream, where Isaac spread a blanket. Hazel settled with Hope, who was awake and staring wide-eyed at the dappled sunlight through the branches. "She likes it," Hazel observed, smiling as her daughter reached toward a dancing leaf shadow. "Smart girl," Isaac said, sitting beside them. "This place has always brought me peace. Thought you might need some of that." Hazel looked around at the sheltered valley. "It's perfect. Thank you for sharing it." They ate the lunch Martha had packed, talking easily about small things the horses Isaac was training, the book Hazel had been reading, Hope's new ability to focus on faces. After they'd eaten, Isaac cleared his throat nervously. "Hazel, there's something I need to say." She turned to him, curious about his sudden seriousness. "I've been thinking about your situation with Tanner and the land," he began, "and I've come to a decision." Hazel waited, unsure where this was heading. Isaac looked directly at her, his blue eyes earnest. "I want to give you and Hope the southeast parcel of my land. It's good groundwater, timber, grazing, enough to build a future on." Hazel stared at him, speechless. "I know it's not what you and Thomas planned," Isaac continued quickly, "and it wouldn't replace what was taken from you. But it would be yours free and clear, a place to start again." "Isaac," Hazel finally managed, "I can't accept that, it's too much." "It's not charity," he insisted. It's what's right. What Tanner took from you I can partly restore. I'd consider it an honor." Tears welled in Hazel's eyes. The generosity of it overwhelmed her. "Why would you do this? You barely know me." Isaac's gaze softened. "I know enough," he said quietly. "I know you're brave and strong. I know you're devoted to your daughter. I know you face each day with grace, despite all you've lost." He paused, seeming to search for words. "And I know that having you and Hope at the ranch these past weeks has made it feel more like home than it ever has before." The emotion in his voice made Hazel's heart beat faster. She looked down at Hope, then back at Isaac's open, honest face. "What about Martha?" she asked. "It's her home too." "Aunt Martha suggested it," Isaac admitted with a small smile, "said it was high time the land supported a family again." Hazel took a deep breath. "This is." "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide now," Isaac assured her. "Just think about it." She nodded, grateful for the reprieve. The offer touched her deeply, but accepting meant acknowledging that her old life with Thomas was truly gone. that her future and hopes would be built on new foundations. They sat in companionable silence as the afternoon light softened. Hope dozed in Hazel's arms, and Isaac pointed out deer tracks along the stream bank, a woodpecker's nest in a dead cottonwood, the signs of beaver activity downstream. As they prepared to leave, Hazel impulsively touched Isaac's arm. "Thank you," she said, "not just for the offer of land, but for today, for showing me this place." Isaac covered her hand with his own, a brief, warm touch that sent a current through her. "There's more to see when you're ready." "This land has many faces." "I'd like that," Hazel replied softly. The ride back to the cabin was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. As they crested the final hill, Hazel noticed Isaac tense suddenly. "What is it?" she asked. "Riders," he said tersely, pointing to a cloud of dust on the road ahead. 4, maybe 5 of them." Hazel clutched Hope tighter. "Tanner could be." Isaac's expression hardened. "Stay behind me." He urged the horse forward, positioning himself between Hazel and the approaching riders. As they drew closer, Hazel could make out 5 men, their horses lathered from hard riding. Isaac halted their sleigh, his hand moving to the rifle secured beneath the seat. "That's far enough," he called as the riders approached. The leader, a tall man with a shock of gray hair, reined in his horse. "Isaac Reed, who's asking?" Name's Jenkins, U.S. Marshal's office. The man produced a badge. "We're looking for a woman named Hazel Matthews, word is she might be here." Isaac's posture remained tense. "What's your business with Mrs. Matthews?" Jenkins glanced past Isaac to where Hazel sat with Hope. "Madam, we need to speak with you regarding the death of your husband and the claim against your property." Hazel met the marshal's gaze steadily. "I've already given my statement to Marshal Hollister." "Yes, madam." "And it's part of why we're here." Jenkins dismounted, approaching slowly with his hands visible. "Silas Tanner was arrested this morning in Sweetwater." Hazel gasped. "Arrested? On what charges?" "Murder, to start with," Jenkins replied grimly. "One of his men turned state's evidence. A fella named Dawson said he couldn't live with what they'd done to your husband and others." Isaac's hand relaxed on the rifle. "Hollister's been building a case for years." Jenkins nodded. "It finally came together. We found documentation in Tanner's office, forged deeds, threatening letters, a ledger of bribes paid to Judge Wilson." He looked directly at Hazel. "Including falsified papers claiming your husband owed Tanner money." Relief and vindication washed over Hazel in equal measure. "Then our land is still legally yours, Mrs. Matthews," Jenkins confirmed. "Though I understand there's not much left of the homestead." "No," Hazel said softly, "there isn't." Isaac cleared his throat. "You're welcome to continue this conversation at my cabin, Marshal." "It's getting cold for the little one." Jenkins agreed, and they proceeded to the cabin together. Martha received the unexpected guests with remarkable composure, quickly producing coffee and the remains of yesterday's cornbread. Inside, Jenkins elaborated on Tanner's arrest and the charges against him. "He'll hang for what he's done," the marshal concluded, "and his accomplices will face justice too." "What about our land?" Hazel asked. "Even if it's legally mine, I can't rebuild alone with a newborn." Jenkins nodded sympathetically. The new judge, that is, has authorized compensation for Tanner's victims from his seized assets. It won't replace what you've lost, but it might help you start over." Hazel felt Isaac's eyes on her. Their earlier conversation about the land offer hung between them, taking on new significance in light of these developments. After the marshals departed, promising to return with formal documentation, Hazel put Hope down for her nap and found Isaac on the porch, staring out at the setting sun. "You've been quiet," she observed, joining him at the railing. "Just thinking," he replied. "About justice and how rare it is out here." Hazel nodded. "I never thought I'd see Tanner answer for what he did." "Does it help?" Isaac asked softly, "knowing he'll pay for Thomas's death?" Hazel considered the question carefully. "It doesn't bring Thomas back," she finally said. "But yes, it helps to know his killer won't go unpunished." She paused. "And it means Hope will have her inheritance, the land her father worked so hard for." Isaac turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "So you'll return to your homestead?" The question hung in the air between them. Hazel thought about the burned-out shell of her former home, the memories it held, both beautiful and terrible. Then she thought about the past weeks here, the safety she'd found, the warmth of this makeshift family, the way Isaac looked at her when he thought she wouldn't notice. "I don't know," she admitted. "The land is Hope's birthright, but rebuilding alone." She shook her head. "And after being here with you and Martha, the thought of that solitary life." "It doesn't have to be solitary," Isaac said quietly. Hazel's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" Isaac took a deep breath as if gathering courage. "I meant what I said earlier about giving you and Hope land of your own, but there's another option I'd like you to consider." "What's that?" Hazel asked, though something in his eyes made her suspect his answer. "Stay," he said simply, "not as a guest, not out of charity." He took her hand gently. "Hazel, in these few weeks, you and Hope have become important to me, more than I expected, more than I thought possible after." "After your fiancé left," Hazel finished softly. Isaac nodded. "I didn't think I'd ever want to risk that again. But you." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not proposing, not yet. That would be too soon for both of us, but I'm asking you to consider a future here, with me." Hazel felt tears prick her eyes. "Isaac, I care for you too, more than I should, perhaps, so soon after losing Thomas." "I know," he said gently. "And I would never ask you to forget him. He'll always be Hope's father, always be a part of you." "But you're offering us a new start," Hazel said, understanding dawning. "A family," Isaac nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "Yes. In time, if your feelings grow as mine have, I'd be honored to give Hope my name, to raise her as my own, alongside any children we might be blessed with." The offer stole Hazel's breath. It was everything she had feared was lost forever: security, family, a future. And yet, it wasn't the same as what she'd had with Thomas. It was something new, something unexpected. "I need time," she said finally, "to be sure, for both our sakes." "Of course," Isaac agreed immediately. "Take all the time you need, I'll be here." Hazel squeezed his hand, then impulsively rose on tiptoe to press a gentle kiss to his cheek. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Winter settled over the valley, wrapping the Reed Ranch in a blanket of snow and silence. Christmas approached, bringing with it a festive air despite the isolation. Martha unearthed ornaments and decorations from a trunk, and Isaac returned from a hunting trip with a small pine tree strapped to his saddle. Hope, now 2 months old, watched the glittering ornaments with fascination from her cradle. Hazel found herself singing carols she hadn't sung since childhood, rediscovering joy in the simple pleasures of the season. The Marshalls returned as promised, bringing paperwork that confirmed Hazel's ownership of the Matthews homestead and a bank draft representing her share of Tanner's seized assets. The sum, nearly $500, left her speechless. "It's a fortune," she breathed, staring at the draft. "It's justice," Isaac corrected gently. "What's owed to you and Hope?" The money changed things, giving Hazel options she hadn't had before. She could rebuild on her land or start fresh elsewhere. She could hire help, buy livestock, secure Hope's future. Yet as Christmas Eve arrived and they gathered around the fire, Hazel realized her decision had already been made. Watching Isaac read a visit from St. Nicholas to Hope, his deep voice gentle and his eyes warm with affection for a child not his own, Hazel knew where she belonged. Later, after Martha had retired and Hope was asleep, Hazel joined Isaac on the porch. Despite the cold, the night was beautiful, stars blazing in the clear sky, moonlight turning the snow-covered landscape silver. "Penny for your thoughts," Isaac said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Hazel smiled up at him. "I was thinking about home, your homestead." "No," she said softly, "this place with you." Isaac's breath caught. "Hazel, I've made my decision," she continued. "If your offer still stands, Hope and I would like to stay, permanently." The joy that spread across Isaac's face was answer enough, but his words confirmed it. "Nothing would make me happier." Emboldened, Hazel stepped closer. "And the other part of your offer, about family," Isaac's gaze intensified. "That stands too, for as long as you want it." "I want it," Hazel whispered. "I want a future with you, Isaac, for me and for Hope." In the moonlight, his eyes shone with emotion. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, Isaac leaned down. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a promise rather than a passion. Hazel felt it like sunshine after rain, warming places inside her that had gone cold with grief. When they parted, Isaac rested his forehead against hers. "I'll try to be worthy of you both," he murmured. You already are, Hazel assured him, her heart full. They were married on New Year's Day, 1873, in a simple ceremony at the ranch. Marshal Hollister came from Sweetwater to officiate, and a few neighboring ranchers attended with their families. Martha wept openly as Isaac and Hazel exchanged vows before the fireplace, with hope cradled in Martha's arms. I, Isaac James Reed, take you, Hazel Elizabeth Matthews, to be my lawfully wedded wife. Isaac's voice was steady, his eyes never leaving hers. To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part. When Hazel repeated the vows, she felt Thomas's memory like a gentle presence, offering blessing rather than reproach. She would always love him, always honor what they had shared. But her heart had room for this new love, too different but equally true. After the ceremony, as guests enjoyed Martha's cooking and hope was passed from admiring arms to admiring arms, Isaac drew Hazel aside. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "A wedding gift." He pressed a folded document into her hands. Curious, Hazel opened it to find a deed not to a parcel of his land as he'd once offered, but to the entire Reed Ranch with both their names listed as owners. "Isaac," she breathed, "what is this?" "Our future," he said simply. "What's mine is yours now, completely and legally. This land will be Hope's someday, and any brothers or sisters she might have." Tears filled Hazel's eyes. "I don't know what to say." Isaac brushed a tear from her cheek. "Say you'll help me make it a home worthy of our family." "I will," she promised. "With all my heart." Later that night, after the guests had departed and Hope was sleeping peacefully in the cradle Isaac had built for her, husband and wife stood together at the window, watching snow begin to fall. "Mrs. Reed," Isaac murmured, his arms around her waist. "How does it sound?" Hazel leaned back against his chest, savoring the warmth and strength of him. "Like home," she replied. "Like exactly where I'm meant to be." Spring came early that year, bringing new life to the Reed Ranch. Hazel planted a garden while Isaac expanded the corral and built a new barn. Hope, now 6 months old, thrived under the loving attention of her parents and great-aunt. In April, they rode together to the Matthews homestead. Little remained of the cabin Thomas had built: charred timbers, a collapsed roof, the stone chimney still standing like a sentinel over the ruins. Hazel walked through what had once been her home, Hope secured against her chest in a sling. She found a few items untouched by the fire: Thomas's pocket watch in the root cellar, a cast iron skillet, the family Bible, miraculously spared. Isaac gave her space, understanding her need to say goodbye. When she finally returned to where he waited with the horses, her eyes were dry, her expression peaceful. "What would you like to do with the land?" he asked gently. Hazel looked out over the property, the creek where she and Thomas had picnicked, the stand of aspens they'd planned to build Hope's swing beneath. "I'd like to keep it," she decided. "Not to build here again, but to preserve it. For Hope when she's older, so she'll know where she came from." Isaac nodded. "We'll come back regularly, keep it tended." "Thank you," Hazel said, taking his hand, "for understanding." On the ride home, and it was home now, without question, Hazel felt a sense of completion. The past was honored, the future beckoned. That night, as they prepared for bed, Hazel touched Isaac's arm. "I have something to tell you." He turned to her, his expression curious. "What is it?" "Martha confirmed it today," Hazel said, a smile spreading across her face. "We're going to have a baby, in November." Isaac stared at her for a moment, then whooped with joy, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. "A baby," he exclaimed. "Hope's going to be a big sister." His unbridled happiness made Hazel laugh. "You're pleased then?" "Pleased doesn't begin to cover it," Isaac declared, setting her down gently. His expression softened as he placed a hand on her still flat stomach. "Our child, a little piece of both of us." "The first of many, I hope," Hazel said, covering his hand with hers. Isaac kissed her tenderly. "As many as you want," he promised. This house was built for a large family. In the years that followed, the Reed Ranch prospered and grew. Isaac's reputation as a horse trainer spread, bringing clients from as far as Denver. Hazel managed the household and kept the books, her head for figures surprising even herself. Hope grew into a spirited, curious child with her father's auburn hair and her mother's determined chin. She showed an early affinity for horses, following Isaac everywhere and absorbing his gentle methods. "She's a natural," Isaac often said proudly. "Gets it from Thomas, I expect." Hazel appreciated how Isaac kept Thomas's memory alive for Hope, showing her the pocket watch and telling her stories about the brave man who had been her first father. When Hope was 18 months old, her brother James Thomas Reed arrived, followed 2 years later by twins Elizabeth and Sarah. The house that had once seemed too quiet now echoed with children's laughter and the busy sounds of family life. Martha, approaching 70 but still spry, declared herself the happiest great-aunt in the territory. "To think I worried about Isaac being alone," she often said, watching him surrounded by his children. "Now I worry there won't be room for them all." Isaac solved that problem by adding wings to the cabin, transforming it over time into a proper ranch house with separate bedrooms for the children and a large kitchen where the family gathered for meals. On Hope's 5th birthday, Isaac presented her with a gentle pony of her own. "This is Daisy," he told her, helping her onto the saddle. "She'll teach you to ride just like your papa taught you to walk." "Which papa?" Hope asked innocently. "My first papa or you?" Isaac knelt to meet her eyes. "Both of us," he said. "Your first papa is watching over you from heaven, and I'm watching over you here. You're a lucky girl to have 2 papas who love you so much." Hope considered this, then nodded seriously. "I think my first papa sent you to take care of us," she declared. "That's what Mama says." Isaac glanced at Hazel, who smiled through tears. "Your mama is a wise woman," he told Hope, "and I think she might be right." That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Hope asleep upstairs, baby James in Hazel's arms, the twins not yet even a dream, Isaac took his wife's hand. "Are you happy, Hazel Reed?" he asked softly. Hazel looked at him, this man who had found her at her lowest moment and raised her up, who had given her name and land and love when she had nothing. "Completely," she answered truthfully. "Are you?" Isaac's smile was all the answer she needed, but his words warmed her heart nonetheless. "More than I ever thought possible. You and these children, you're everything to me." As twilight deepened over the valley, Hazel leaned against her husband's shoulder, content in the knowledge that sometimes, out of the ashes of tragedy, the most beautiful lives could grow. Years later, when Hope was a young woman preparing for her own wedding, she asked her mother about those early days, about the burned homestead, about Thomas, about how Hazel had found the strength to begin again. Hazel took her daughter's hands, looking into eyes so like her own. "When you were born, we had nothing," she said simply. "Your father was gone, our home destroyed. But then Isaac found us on that road, and he gave us his name and his only land." She smiled, remembering. "He gave us so much more than that, though. He gave us love when we needed it most." "And love, Hope, is the only thing that truly lasts." Hope nodded, understanding at last the depth of the gift she had received, not just life, but a legacy of love that would carry her into her own future, strong and unafraid. And in the doorway, unnoticed, Isaac Reed watched his wife and eldest daughter, his heart full with the knowledge that the greatest decision of his life had been stopping for a desperate woman on a lonely road, over 20 years before.